Yeah, 3 days now.
Are you still feeling it?
I feel weak.
Okay.
Feel weak and dizzy.
I can tell these are patients who take hepatitis B vaccine sick for 3 weeks. So, but I would say most people feeling in 2 or 3 days, and then the symptoms are subsiding. So I would think that yours will be hopefully recovering soon.
Okay, that's good news. Yeah.
All right. So good luck to you.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it's 8:30. Maybe Terence want to kick off.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the weekly guided meditation by Phra Goh. Today is the 27th of April, 2021. We are very fortunate to have with us Bhante Adhibalo, popularly known as Phra Goh. Bhante was born on July 14, 1985, and had his Bhikkhu ordination in Santi Forest Monastery, Johor, Malaysia in 2008. Bhante is currently the Vice President of Palelai Buddhist Temple, Singapore. We are continuing last week's on multi-tradition. They will be leading the homage to the Buddha and taking out the 5 precepts. Now let us compose our minds, put our palms together, and welcome Bhante. Over to you, Bhante.
Thank you, Terence. Now I shall start with the opening chant. Yeah, homage, Vandana. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. 3 refuges. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. And the 5 precepts. Panatipata viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu miccācara viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musawada viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Suramiraya majjapamadatthana viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, and good evening to everyone. Today we are carrying on with this series, Multi-Tradition, Same Liberation. So for the past few lessons, we've been talking about the divergence or the differences in the different traditions or even the sects of different schools of Buddhism, the scriptures they use, the difference, and also talked about the nuances, the issues of practice, the different factors, the conditions, whether have good peers or good teachers, and different kind of sometimes conflicting kind of we call it contradictions. Yeah. But sometimes we might think, okay, we look for a good teacher, right? And there are two factors. One is our own perception. No, maybe we are not wise enough to find a right teacher, and we might think, okay, this is the correct teacher for me, and end up you might not receive the correct thing, and vice versa, right? If there's a wise teacher, a realized teacher, right, and no, he may not be able to help the student. Just for example, like maybe like Devadatta, right? He was the Buddha's direct disciple, Devadatta, and still, no, if his intention is not correct, then you can't sort of get most out of the teachings. All right, so we move on. Right, so we also talk about the previous sessions, like different schools have different interpretations of teachings or precepts. So one very common example, a very gross example would be taking maybe the observance, like for example, the dietary restrictions. Maybe one tradition favors vegetarianism, and another tradition or another monastery doesn't practice, this vegetarianism. So if you bring one set of teachings to the other out of context, then that might be conflict. So it's although we've explained, it's good to know the different what they call differences in the different schools or traditions. It's we call general knowledge is to reduce this conflict. And today's session, we are just going to talk about how to sort of pick and choose out of the many diverse scriptures, regardless of tradition. Theravada tradition has some scriptures may not fall in line with these 6 qualities of the Dhamma, some pointers, right? And likewise, vice versa, for the other traditions, Mahayana, Vajrayana, there are stories and other teachings in the scriptures that may not fit into these 6 criteria of the Dhamma. Right? So we didn't do this in the chanting. For most other places, if you want to talk about the full puja, morning and evening chantings, we will include this, especially in the Theravada tradition. We have these 6 qualities, of the Dhamma. I won't chant it here, I just say it in English. So there's the first quality, that Buddha's teaching is excellent. Right, this is the first quality, in the beginning, middle, and the end. So what does it mean? The different interpretations. So I will just look for excellent in terms of talking about precepts, morality, how to behave, how to have right speech, right action, right livelihood, that kind of stuff. And excellent in the middle, in terms of concentration practice, right? The Eightfold Path, effort, mindfulness, concentration. So it's clearly explained, well defined, and clear. And last part, excellent in the end, which is the wisdom part, leading to the liberation, which is the right understanding and right thought, right? So this is the one of the explanations of this excellent in the beginning, middle, and the end. And the second pointer, second quality of the Dhamma is this: it can be seen here and now, without delay, seen here and now. That means there are teachings that, especially in our meditation, we can observe how craving causes this dukkha, this suffering, right? And also how does practicing right thought, right mindfulness, and so on will give you peace of mind, so you can experience here and now. You don't have to wait for next lifetime and so on. So of course, there are many things in the scripture that talk about maybe past lives, future lives, other realms, maybe devas fighting, going to war. So these aren't things that you can sort of experience or see here and now, right? And sort of like not so essential. So it doesn't really fit in the criteria of the six. So even in the Theravada teachings, these are mentioned, and we can sort of see, filter those teachings. And number three criteria. Number third one is timeless. Timeless as in it doesn't matter whether is it 2,500 years ago or even right now and future, right? The teachings is applicable. So, for example, if the Buddha were to give examples, analogies about riding on a horse, using a cart, things that people in the modern society don't really use, or even not talk about bow and arrow in the warfare. So these are just analogies. So we have to understand that these are just metaphors or analogies. And the timeless teachings is that as long as there's still greed, hatred, and delusion, right, whether it's past, present, or future, then there will be the Four Noble Truths, right? There will be the solution to overcome this great hatred and delusion and to find this spiritual happiness. So this quality of timelessness has to be there, right? So you can sort of sieve through the scriptures and see whether is it essential. Okay, and the fourth quality, inviting one to investigate. Inviting one to investigate. That means it's not just, or it can just, what do you call it, repeatable in text, and you cannot investigate it. It's not something like kind of law or kind of commandment where you just say and you have to blindly or faithfully just follow. Or you can check for yourself. So this is one of the quality of the Dhamma, right? Inviting one to investigate. So a person can check whether it's true and it's sort of replicable. So one of the example, I'm not sure whether I've mentioned this before, the wisest disciple of the Buddha, Venerable Sariputta, was being asked by the Buddha himself, do you believe in my teachings? The Buddha asked Venerable Sariputta. So the wisest disciple of the Buddha, right-hand man, among in front all of the other disciples, he said, no. He said, no, I do not believe in your teachings. So the Buddha is very interested in how he answers the question and asks further, why do you say so? And Venerable Sariputta, being an enlightened monk himself and the wisest, one of the chief disciples, and he mentioned that, okay, this, the Dhamma, right, he do not believe, but he only through thorough investigation, after he can see for himself, experience, and realize that it is true, then, right, he will have this sort of confidence. He knows that it is true. He doesn't believe. So interestingly, Buddhism, if you just take in this context or this aspect of Buddhism, then it looks very non-faith-based. Sort of like Buddhism doesn't encourage faith-based approach. If let's say you just read the scripture, but of course there are faith-based approach, which we will probably talk in the other lessons. So this is normally taken and quoted and sort of marketed. Buddhism is for the wise, for intelligent people, no faith-based, no blind belief. You need to have lots of intellect, lots of wisdom, which is good for the people with that inclination, who are very critical thinkers, who are analytical, who are want to approach in the Buddhism in this direction. Then of course this is applicable for them, right? So this is inviting one to investigate, one of the qualities of the Dhamma. So the Buddha approved of what Venerable Sariputta said. He even praised Venerable Sariputta. And the next quality is leading inward. Leading inward, that means it leads one to find inner peace, leading inward. If a person, there are lots of truths, there's mundane truths and secular truths. So if a person wants to be like a detective, want to find whether the scriptures is authentic or not, whether it's true. Earlier on I mentioned all these qualities. There are many things in the scripture that doesn't fit into the 6 qualities of the Dhamma. That doesn't mean it's not true, yeah? So it's just, it's not supra mundane enough. It's very secular kind of examples of truths. So part of my side hobby, is like to investigate on the Vimanas and this Dharma. The wheel treasure, or even the Devas and that kind of stuff. So these are considered mundane truths. Doesn't lead inward. So if a person wants to seek external truth, and you may find lots of clues and evidences, but does it lead to inner peace? Does it reduce greed, hatred, and delusion? Right. So there's many kinds of truths out there. I'll give an example. The Buddha is like walking in the forest with all his disciples, and he picked up a handful of leaves on the ground, and he asked his disciples, which is more in volume, and the leaves on his hand or the leaves all over the forest? So the disciples answered, definitely the leaves all over the forest are more than the leaves on your hand. So likewise, the Buddha replied, that's true, correct. This is the correct answer. So likewise, what the Buddha taught is only just a handful of leaves, which is the 4 Noble Truths. There are so many truths out there, all over the floor, all the leaves on the ground, history, geography, math, science, so many kinds of, we call it conventional truths, mundane kind of truths. I'm not discrediting them. They're important for your daily life. You need to know how to count. You need to know, what kind of nutrition to take care of your body and kind of stuff. There's lots of essential, conventional truth, but when we talk about spiritual kind of truths, it's just a handful of leaves, the 4 Noble Truths, right? So it has to lead inward. And the last quality, to be realized by the wise, each for oneself. So that is the last factor. So how do you know whether it's wise or not? Anybody can think they're wise and they think, oh yeah, I know that I regard myself as wise, so that must be true, right? So anybody knows how to differentiate? Okay, so sometimes it's good to check, if it reduces greed, hatred, and delusion, then it's more or less on the correct path. If it increases greed, hatred, and delusion, then it's not on the right track. So we'll talk more on the next slide. Terence, can you click on the next slide? Okay, all right. So we talk about this. How do you know, right, if a person is wise or having true teachings, whether they're holding the truth? So we have this interesting story of the Kalamas. So Kalama is like a group of people, a town, and these Kalamas have been visited by many religious teachers of different belief systems. So every time this a certain religious teacher come to this town and they start to preach, and they start to praise their own teaching and put down other belief systems. I said my teaching is right, other teachings are wrong, and every time a new religious teacher come in and give their sermons, they'll say the same thing. My teachings are right, the other teachings are wrong. So one day the Buddha happened to come across, walk past this town, Kalamas, and Kalamas invited the Buddha, and asked this question, asked this problem. How do you know which teachings are right, which teachings are wrong? And they explained their problem to the Buddha. So the Buddha tried to be objective, and he gave this teaching, Kalama Sutta. So this is just an excerpt of the sutta. You want to read the whole sutta, you can Google yourself. Okay, so there are these like 10 criteria, or rather these few set of criteria. Do not simply believe what has been acquired by repeated hearing. That means there's lots of nowadays we talk about fake news, lots of things being going viral and WhatsApp or on social media or even on the news, right? So whatever you keep hearing and hearing, do not simply believe. So this is the first criteria. So that's what the Buddha told Kalamas. And the second criteria, right? Do not simply believe based on tradition, being passed down by many generations, may not be true or beneficial. Just whatever your ancestors do, you just blindly follow, and the meaning might be lost down along the way, or might be passed down wrongly. Certain generations might interpret wrongly and pass down to you, and therefore you just carry on the practice. So do not simply believe based on tradition. So that goes for Buddhist traditions as well. So we kind of like sieve through the Buddhist rituals, practices, and even the doctrines. So we're trying to pick which is beneficial kind of dharmas, right, that lead to inner happiness. Okay, so and the third criteria, right, do not simply believe based on rumor. That means whatever you hear, right, don't simply just believe, right? So nowadays, for example, the vaccine case, people talk about vaccine can change your DNA. So if there's not enough concrete evidence, then it's just a rumor, yeah? So do not simply believe. And the next one is nor upon what is in the scripture. Right, do not simply believe what is said in the scripture. So we've covered that, right? Buddhist scriptures, so many, you don't have to simply believe. Even this one, you don't have to believe. So you have to investigate for yourself. Okay, then the next one, do not simply believe upon surmise. That means a conjecture, a guess. You make a guesswork. Right? You make a lucky guess, intellectual guess, whatever kind of guess. So you jump to a kind of conclusion, right? So do not simply believe based on that. But of course, most people based on that because emotionally they feel, hey, that is right one. Yeah. So people, human beings aren't really people of rational thinking. We aren't rational thinkers. We aren't logical thinkers. We are more of emotion. Yeah, people of emotion. So emotion usually wins. Right, we may be very, for example, we may believe, for example, not getting into fights is the correct way. But when the conditions are right, no, we get heated up. People still get into fights and quarrels. So people are pulled along by emotion. They don't really follow logic. Yeah. So this is based on surmise. And the next one, do not simply based on an axiom. That means an established kind of proposition, right? So whatever is supposedly claimed, right, to be established, right, that doesn't sort of necessarily means it's absolute. Like there's a certain point of time, the scientific sort of laws, or theories, or these hypotheses may be established, at that point of time. Then it changes along the way, when there's new discoveries or scientific breakthroughs. So this is just a very mundane example. So again, do not simply just believe based on an established kind of fact. And the next one, now upon this specious reasoning, right? So even our own logic cannot be trusted, our own logic. And my logic is different from your logic. Everybody's logic is different, right? So cannot hold a person's logic to be, the absolute truth. And the next one, a bias towards a notion that has been pondered over. Right. So if you have a certain kind of topic, a subject that you think over and over again, then there's certain bias, right? A certain school of thought inclined towards this system of belief, right? So no, you don't have to accept it straight away as a truth. So you can, right, investigate. And the next one, do not simply believe based on another's seeming ability. So a person can claim they're an expert. So what they say, right? Yeah, you can no, listen, and then you can follow up with an investigation later. And the next one, now upon the consideration, and the monk is our teacher. So even whatever I say, don't simply believe. Right, you must investigate for yourself. So the Buddha said this to his audience, these kalamas. Right, do not even believe what the Buddha himself said. Right, so same with the story I gave about Venerable Sariputta. Right, so that's what the Buddha said to these kalamas. Do not simply believe, right, whatever the teacher says. And he says how to investigate. So there are again several points to consider. What are the criteria you use to investigate? So when you yourselves know these things are good, these things are not blamable, right? These things are praised by the wise, undertaken and observed. These things lead to benefit and happiness. Right, so the benefit here is referring to benefit for oneself and others, not the selfish kind of benefit, right? And it's a spiritual kind of happiness. So the Buddha gave a few examples. So the Buddha talked about the 5 precepts. So it's some common sense thing. So it's killing. Is it good? So you look upon the previous these factors, right? So some traditions maybe encourage killing, maybe certain ritual, maybe human sacrifice, animal sacrifice, whatever it is, right? They encourage killing, right? And now some even in the scriptures, if it's talking about religious thing, right? And so there are so many things, right? If you just simply go about it. And then you have to look at the second set of criteria that we talk about is, are these things good? Are these things not blamable? So sometimes if everybody is practicing it, then everybody will praise, okay, human sacrifice is good, for example. Then how? Then the next one, undertaken and observed, right? Does it lead to benefit for yourself and others? So if it's a loss of life, so it doesn't benefit that person, right? So there's many things to investigate and sort of to think through, right? So again, these are, if a person wants to think further, and more intellectually, then there's many gray areas. Many gray areas. Things like how about a very evil person? How about Hitler or whatever it is? Very evil criminal. Should they put them to sleep or prosecute them or persecute them, whatever it is. So, so for religious person, we talk about inner happiness. So when we talk about the wise here, we talk about leading to inner peace and happiness. This kind of wisdom. Not talking about no. There's a lot of mundane wisdom of the crowd. Mundane wisdom of the crowd. So it's very hard again, to base on these 10 things without a proper guide. So the Buddha is trying to slowly guide these kalamas. Okay, is taking our life good? Is stealing good? Or is having sexual misconduct good? Or is having this telling lies, is it good? Or taking in this intoxicating drinks and drugs good or not? So we chanted the 5 precepts earlier. So the main thing is to put yourself in that situation, put yourself in other shoes. If you were to be lied to, is it good? Or if you were to be killed, is it a good thing? Right? So these are the sort of the criteria. So you need to think through those stuff. So if it is not good and it's blamable, then how? Then the Buddha introduced the observing of the 5 precepts, which is not to kill, not to steal, not to have sexual misconduct, not to tell lies, not to have these intoxicating drinks and drugs. So these kalamas, okay, agreed, fulfilled the criteria. And the Buddha also introduced the practice of the 4 sublime states. That is loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. These 4 things, right? So it's sorry, previous slide. Right, so these 4 sublime states are very beneficial. Doesn't harm anybody, right? You practice loving kindness. Does it harm anybody? No, right? It doesn't harm anybody. So the kalamas accepted. So whichever doctrine, whether you believe in an afterlife or not, whether you believe in an afterlife or not, right? If you observe the precepts and you don't, you don't kill, steal, whatever, and you practice the 4 sublime states, right? If there is an afterlife, then it's good for you. And the second kind of religious teaching, if there is no afterlife, then it's also good for you, no harm. And there's the third kind of religious kind of teaching, if there is consequences, if there is karma, if there's consequences to your actions, then definitely benefit to you. You do all the good things, beneficial for you. And the fourth kind of religious standpoint is there is no karma, no consequences to action. Also, no issue, no problem if you practice all these good things, right? So it's a safe bet. It's a win-win situation, right? It's a win-win situation. So there again, now it's 9, or slightly after 9. I end the short sharing, right? Mainly to introduce again the 4 sublime states, very universally recognized in most of the main religions. Love is definitely preached in all the main religions. So yeah, that's it. Okay, any questions on the ground?
Hi, Bhante. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. I want to make some comments.
Yeah.
Okay. I do not disagree with the framework of the Buddha Gautama saying that the Dhamma must be experienced, see for oneself, and then take it as the truth, And then he emphasized wisdom as the way to go.
Yeah.
right? Do not just believe. This is, I think my opinion is the typical, because I think Buddha Gautama attained his enlightenment based on wisdom.
Yeah, correct.
That's why wisdom is very prominent. It is emphasized. Even his teaching is very analytical and also very deep. A lot of thinking, a lot of intellectual capacity required to understand his teaching. This is one. If they say, will all Sama Sambuddha like this?
Not
According
necessarily.
to because some Sama Sambuddha attain their enlightenment based on faith, faith-based Sama Sambuddha. I think I heard in one of the scripture. After that, another Sama Sambuddha, we say that he attained based on energy or virya or like meta energy or compassion energy, the high level of energy that he gained his enlightenment, he gained his understanding, he gained his panya, his wisdom actually. In the end, it's all wisdom, understanding what the nature is all about and gain his enlightenment. So it's also covered by the way a Sama Sambuddha attained his enlightenment, the way that he teach, the way that it is taught in the world. This is one. Second one will be that remember, will the population in the world, are they intellectual? Most of them, or are they feeling based? How to actually touch the people, in the world? Is it by thinking, by give them understanding, and people will follow, will embrace the teaching of Buddha, or by feeling, by show them how good the feeling of love, how good compassion is, how will people connect to the teaching? Can be intellectual based, can be feeling based, can be faith based, So it also depends on the how population will respond to the teaching. So it's all there are many factors here. I think one of the reasons Buddhism is not really very popular in the world. This is the fact. We are not number one religion. One of the reason, I think, because it is intellectual based. Then we understand. My opinion, again, my opinion. People in the world are not many of them are intellectual. They are mainly, I think, feeling based, even faith based. Some of them. Okay, this is my comment. Please, Bante.
Okay, yeah, very good point. Like I mentioned earlier, this is just one aspect, of what most of the Theravada missionaries have been portraying. And because we talk about the missionaries, especially the Sri Lankans or the other Theravada Buddhist countries, they have these universities, Buddhist universities or Pali colleges to back them up to propagate the teaching. So it's mostly they want to advertise this intellectual angle. But of course, we know if a person becomes a Samma Sambuddha, he has to develop all the qualities to help as many sentient beings as possible. So in the previous session, we talked about the various meditation objects. So there are faith-based practices. There are faith-based practices. So in the future lessons to come, we will talk about the importance of faith-based practices. So there are such things leading to the wisdom. So wisdom here is actually the reduction of greed, hatred, and delusion. The Pali word, interestingly, is called panya, which literally translates as wisdom. But panya is a very general term. In that language, in that context, panya can also mean intelligence, can mean street smart, can mean cleverness, right? Whereas in English, we differentiate, wise is wise, clever is clever, intelligent is intelligent. There are different words for it. But in the Pali language, if I'm not wrong, it's all in one. So there's a conventional wisdom, and that's why when they sort of translate it literally, they talk about conventional wisdom and this supramundane wisdom. But if you want to talk about simple English, wisdom is about overcoming evil to reduce greed, hatred, delusion. So if a person practices the faith-based method, let's say they just chant the Buddha's name, have faith, right? They should be able to, if done correctly, reduce craving, and that itself is experiencing the wisdom of the teaching or wisdom of the practice. Right? So this is the wisdom approach. But if you talk about trying to explain the scriptures in detail and analyze, then that is the conventional wisdom, or not, or in simple English we call it intellect.
Okay, but I give one example of getting into jhanas,
Okay.
one level, two level, three level. Some people use anapanasati, which is to me is rather quiet, and then I think a lot of understanding, then go into deeper. Then that is also, for me, I don't do it that way. I think mine is energy based, more like a metta, and then a lot of energy. Based on that energy is going up and up and up and up. This is the way that I actually, based on the energy build up, then get to that higher and higher and higher. So some people are not like that. Some people are using let's say anapanasati, the breathing base, and then I think it's more calm and calmer. I think a lot of understanding in there. After that, go deeper and deeper. I think this is also one example, so as simple as the doing a meditation.
Yeah, there are many approaches or interpretations on how to do any kind of meditation object. Some I heard now there are some anapanasati practitioners in breath meditation, which require a lot of energy as well. They breathe in and breathe out very loudly. They need to inhale and exhale deeply and loudly for everybody to hear. There are such practices, and there are also I would say more modern kind of breath meditation, which is infused with something like chakra or qigong kind of system. So there are such breath meditations as well. Yeah.
Does it align with the wisdom-based,
Again, depends
energy-based,
on
and faith-based? Faith-based, like chanting, like you said, Buddha.
Yeah,
this is a faith-based type.
Yeah, depends on how one does it. A person who does chanting on the Buddha's name, if let's say they are very analytical or very critical, they also can, if let's say that's the only practice they're introduced to, they also can approach it from the wisdom point of view. For example, the Zen tradition, they chant. Then after some time, there's this habitual karma, or this sub-vocalization that is automatically replaying in the mind without you deliberately chanting. You just keep quiet, then the sound will be there. Then the Zen, I remember reading this classical Zen story. Then this Zen master will ask his student, who is the one chanting? So that is their vipassana.
So as a start, it was faith-based as a start, because he mentioning the name,
samatha,
again,
samatha.
as a start. But after that, panya will come in,
Yeah, correct.
understanding of the emptiness or something like that.
Yeah.
I see.
Or a person may chant without faith even. They don't see the Buddha as like a savior or somebody, they just see the Buddha as very intelligent man, then they just chant the name. Also possible. Yeah. So different people have different approaches. So the whole idea is the 5 faculties have to be strong. Yeah. It doesn't, if some people, we talk about what faith-based or whatever based. Now there are people who are a bit lopsided or they incline or favor towards one, but it's good to have all 5. The first one being faith or confidence. Second is this energy. Yeah, you talk about energy. And third is mindfulness. Fourth is concentration. Fifth is wisdom. So these are the 5 powers or 5 faculties. So they have to be like balanced. Yeah. Or you want to be strong, all 5 strong, then that's good. Yeah.
Okay, Bhante.
Okay, no problem. Okay, any the questions on the ground? Oh yeah, I want to further elaborate Jan's point he mentioned about why Buddhism isn't that popular, right? My personal opinion is it's got to do with the practice. It's not about which base is more. There are lots of faith-based practices around. I think the Mahayana tradition is a much larger Buddhist population than the Theravada Buddhists. They do have lots of faith-based activities, and Theravada also, I would say, most of the city Thai tradition, or even maybe other Theravada traditions, also lots of faith-based, lots of blessing, lots of chanting, lots of protective chants, lots of faith-based activities as well. So it's not about the which base is more. I would say it's more on the impacting on the devotee. Whether these practices lead to them seeing the Dhamma leading inward. If they do not experience the true, the spiritual happiness, then to them it's religion has no impact in their lives. No impact in their lives. So they might give up on religion or stop being religious or switch to another religion, whatever it is. All right, any other questions? So I also recall another point the Buddha talked about the degeneration of Buddhism, downfall of Buddhism. So it's got to do with, I think, a few factors. One is not having respect or faith in the triple gen, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, the faith in the precepts or the training rules, and the last one is faith in concentration. Yeah, not having respect in concentration or meditation. Right, so these are like the 5 points which will lead to the degeneration of Buddhism. It's not about other religions trying to conquer you or whatever it is. No, it's the Buddhist community themselves inside will destroy Buddhism. So lacking of these 5, it will just collapse inward. All right. About any questions from like the Facebook comments or anything? Okay, if there's no issues, then we have again a short 5-minute break. Do your stretching, and then we can come back for the meditation. All right, it's 5 minutes. Let's see who's returning. I think Eddie is still away. Still a happy Chinese New Year mood.
Forgot to change the poster, Bante. To the Chinese New Year poster.
Keeping the rejoicing spirit alive. Right. I guess most of people are back. Okay, so we shall start. And find the comfortable sitting position. Make sure your back is upright and your body relaxed. Okay, then we start off with a bit of detachment of the body practices. So we are going to start visualizing, right, the hairs. All the hairs of the head, all the hairs of the body. So the initial thinking, initial visualization without inputting right thought. And that will naturally, default thinking usually will be unskillful thoughts. This is my hair, yeah? And it will fall to the extremes, either greed or hatred. My hair is very nice, I like my hair. So that's greed or hatred. I dislike my hair, right? So these are the two extremes, right? So this is for you to observe and investigate, right? Whether is it true, right? So this is one state of mind when there is already craving a reason. We are living in the world of craving, so this is like the default state of mind. So after introducing right thought, then you observe, see whether there's any difference. Is it better? Huh? So we're going to introduce the first right thought called loving kindness. So we are going to wish all the hairs well and happy from head to toe. So every time you visualize a new patch of hair, a new area, you're going to generate the thought well and happy. So new area, new thought, new area, new thought, well and happy, well and happy. So the whole idea is never to leave your mind stagnant or idle for more than 2 seconds. If you leave your mind idle, then it will fall into the default programming, will be thoughts of craving. Requires lots of effort, yeah? But don't overdo it to the point where it's making you restless or over agitated. Yeah? So the whole idea is consistency and repetition. So the loving kindness is to reduce thoughts or cravings of aversion. So once that is reduced or introduce loving kindness, then the emotional state of mind will definitely be different from previously. And then we are going to introduce the other right thought, which is thoughts of non-greed. We are going to do impermanence. And again, you're going to observe whether there's any difference. So we are going to visualize all these hairs go through birth, aging, decay, and passing away. So you try to make it slightly quick and fast forward the aging process, hairs growing long, getting dirty, turning white, and falling off. And it repeats this cycle many, many times. So hairs growing, hairs falling. So you keep on doing it many, many times. And the more you think of impermanence, then there will be more detachment. And this detachment or the reducing of this craving will lead to this inner peace. The whole idea is not to cling on to the peace and treat all the pleasant and nice emotions as a sideshow, and emphasis is on generating the right thought, which is impermanence right now. Yeah. And then we are going to ask ourselves, reflection, are these hairs truly self? Can we tell the hairs not to go through this birth and death? So the question is just to check, yeah, whether this sense of self or sense of this ego, is it increasing or decreasing? Okay, and we have the next part of the body. We're going to visualize the nails. We're going to wish all the nails well and happy. All the fingernails and all the toenails, may they be well and happy. And all these nails are subject to these cycles of birth and death. So nails are growing, nails are falling. So think of these birth and death cycles many, many, many times. And then we are going to ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? And we tell the nails not to go through this birth and death. Okay, and the next part of the body, we're going to visualize the teeth, or the teeth inside the mouth. May they be well and happy. Let's say you feel drowsy, and you need to generate this loving kindness for every teeth. Yeah. And all these teeth are subject to birth and death. So they change in shape and size, get dirty, yellow, brown, black, decay, wear and tear. Get loose and shaky, and eventually they fall off. And we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? Can we tell the teeth not to go through this birth and death? Okay, and the next part of the body is our skin. We're going to wish all the skin well and happy from head to toe. Same thing, every new patch of skin, we keep generating thought and wish it well and happy. Okay, and all these skin are subject to birth and death. So this skin, they keep growing and falling all the time. So think of these birth and death cycles many, many, many times. And we can ask ourselves, are these skin truly self? And we tell the skin not to go through this birth and death. And now we are going to practice these four sublime states, which are very universal, celebrated as a kind of common good, regardless of belief systems or non-belief systems. And we are going to first wish all beings in front well and happy. So there's no need to deliberately visualize. Yeah, any form of deliberate visualizing is a form of stereotyping or even restricting this boundless loving kindness. But if any image that pop up unintentionally, just treat it as a side view, and no need to deliberately project your attention forward. Just gentle wish, wish all beings in front well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we are going to wish all beings on the back, behind, well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings on the left, well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings on the right, well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings above well and happy. And we come back to ourselves, and we wish all beings below well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. So this time round, we feel the whole body from head to toe with loving kindness. There's no need to visualize the body, just feel the sensations. Right, whatever kind of sensation that arises within or outside the body, we wish it well and happy. So the same thing is keep generating the right thought, new sensation, new well and happy, new sensation, well and happy. So we take note of this state of mind. This now is restricted loving kindness because we restrict the area to your body. Right, so this time round, we are sort of lifting the restrictions and we're going to expand this mind. So now we're going to wish all beings in all directions well and happy, above, below, and all across. All beings in the entire universe, may they be well and happy. So again, no need to deliberately visualize, just a wish, and no need to uh, deliberately, push the mind outward. If let's say the mind does expand, whatever new sensation in whichever area that arises, the same thing, just wish it well and happy. So the thought of all beings is a kind of perception, a mental formation. So whatever dharmas, whatever formation that arise, it is still part of the all beings. Yeah, so we're going to wish it well and happy. So sensation arise, wish it well and happy. Sensation arise, wish it well and happy. So there's the paradox of right thinking. The more right thoughts you have, the calmer the mind will be. Yeah? So as the mind gets calmer, it will get closer to this state of boundlessness. Any form of craving or pushing, right, of the mind or restricting the mind is causing strain or tension. So that is restricting the mind. Yeah, so that is not creating boundlessness. So it is only by reducing craving and the mind will sort of break down the boundaries or the borders. And then you can sort of take note of whatever piece as a sideshow, right? So remember this emotion, but the primary objective, the emphasis is always to keep generating, producing these thoughts of loving kindness. Okay, and then we are going to switch to the second sublime state, which is compassion. So we're going to wish all beings, may they be free from suffering. So you can observe the transition of the state of mind, right, the change of emotion between loving kindness to compassion. And as the mind progresses, same thing, whatever new sensation that arise, right, may it be free from suffering. As the mind gets calmer through more of the right thoughts and gets closer to this boundless compassion. And we can take note of it as a side view and keep generating more compassion. Okay, and we are now switching to the third sublime state, which is appreciative joy. And we are now going to rejoice in all beings' positive achievements. And may they not be separated from what they have attained. And likewise, you can observe the transition of these emotions, of these sublime states. And along the way, any new sensation that arise, we also can rejoice in them. Whatever dharmas we learn from this arising phenomenon, we can rejoice. New sensation, enjoy, new sensation, rejoice. Yeah? As the mind starts to calm down with the right thoughts and gets closer to this boundless, appreciative joy, we can take note of this emotion while not forgetting to reflect on this appreciative joy. And we are now switching to the fourth sublime state, which is equanimity. And we are using the reflection on karma to practice equanimity. So all beings are the owners of their karma, right? Whatever good and bad we do, we shall be the recipient. So you can observe the transition of the emotions when you switch to the next sublime state. And along the way, any new sensation that arises, which is pleasant in feeling, that is the ripening of good karmas. And if unpleasant sensation arise, that is the ripening of the bad karmas. So every new sensation arise, that is karma ripening. As the mind starts to calm down and gets to this closer to this boundless equanimity, and we can take note of this emotion and not forgetting to keep reflecting on karma, on observing karma. No need to imagine or think of what I did in the past to receive this karma. Yeah, no need. It's here and now. Experience whatever sensation arises right here and now, then you just observe it. So while being mindful of this impermanence of feeling, actually, then we can maintain this state of mind while we physically open our eyes. And so we can physically end the session, but mentally still mindful of this impermanence. Okay, so it's 10 o'clock. Any issues or problems from anyone here? If there's no issues, then we can end the session, yeah? So we end off with this dedicating of merits. So this Anumodana chant. Akasata ca bhumata devanaga mahitika punyang tang anumoditva cirang rakantu loka sasanang etavata ca amhihi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe deva sabbe bhuta sabbe sata anumodantu sampa sampati siddhya. Transference of merits to departed. Idang me nyatinang hotu, sukita hotu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu, sukita hotu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu, sukita hotu nyatayo. Aspiration, imina punya kamena, mame bala samagamo. Satang samagamo hotu yavani bana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, someone typed a comment.
Dean is back.
Eddie.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is a question posed by Dean on the Facebook, Bante.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm reading his. Okay, yeah, so for Dean, he has my number. He can contact me anytime, no problem, yeah? Okay, yeah. So then hopefully I addressed his comment or question. Okay, anything else, Terence? Any announcements?
No announcement, Bante. See you all next week.
Okay, right.
Thank you,
See all
Bante.
next week, and good night.
Good night. Thank you, Bante.
Good night.
Good night.
No problem.
Good night.
Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu.